this lecture, I plan to cover the characteristics of DC machines, which is very important to know so that we can choose the right machines for right use. Now, we know that a DC machine can operate either as a generator or a motor. While the motor application is more pronounced, the generator are also used in some special needs. Okay, this is a schematic diagram of a DC generator. Okay, here is a DC. This is general DC machine, which has both a series winding and the shunt winding. Now, there is a power that is fed through the shaft by a prime mover, so it is driven at a given speed, but also by applying a torque T input. So, what will happen is there is an opposing torque TE by the DC machine at any steady speed, so that the input torque should be equal to the opposing developed torque, so that there is an equilibrium of the mechanical sector. Then there is an induced voltage with this direction, plus and minus, due to the flux flowing this way, and the current will go out like this. Now, that means in this direction of correction, so the current in the series winding will be like this and shunt winding will be like this, so it becomes effectively a differential connected compound generator. And then the current will be finally taken by the load. Now, this is any load which can be a resistive load, or it can be another motor and so on. So, there is a voltage across the load and there is a current going into the load. Okay. So, we know the governing equations will be that the torque is given by a constant Ka into flux phi due to these currents and the current in the armature, that is the developed torque, and the voltage induced will be equal to Ka phi into omega m, that is the constant into the flux into the speed. And then the voltage at the load will be whatever is the voltage at the generator terminal, or the induced voltage Ea minus the drop along the line. So, there will be Ea is induced voltage minus the drop is Ia into Ra plus Rse, internal resistance plus the series resistance. So, that will be the voltage across the load, whereas the other governing equation is the field current here will be equal to whatever is the voltage, that is VL, divided by the resistance in the field circuit Rf. So, we have this relation, that If equal to VL by Rf, and similarly the current in the load will be whatever current coming out of the armature minus the current going into the field if it is a compound generator. Okay. So, we now notice a governing equation. We will see, based on this governing equation, let us observe what will be the characteristics. Okay. As a generator, one of the important characteristics as a generator is the so called open circuit characteristics. Okay, open circuit characteristics is basically a variation of the induced voltage, or what you call it as back EMF, versus the field current. Okay. So that is the induced voltage versus back EMF, and we know that EA is equal to some constant into phi into omega m. Now if you maintain the omega m constants, that means EA by omega m will be equal to Ka phi. So there will be, this will be basically a variation of phi versus IF also at any given constant speed. If you run it at one speed, it will induce a voltage. If you run it at a higher speed, it will induce another voltage. So that means omega m1, this is the top characteristics, and omega m2 is the bottom characteristics. Okay. Now this is the open circuit characteristics, which is important. This is the magnetization characteristics, which will give you the variation of the flux of the field due to this. And when you are conducting open circuit characteristics, means you are not operating in a load, that means armature current is 0 here. So here IA is 0, nothing is connected. So you normally conduct a test in a laboratory by driving at a given speed omega m1 and then measuring the voltage across the terminals without connecting anything. So this is the induced voltage. So we see an important phenomenon like this. Okay, then one my question, how will a self-excited generators work? This is an important feature. With these characteristics, EA versus IF, this is proportional to phi, and we notice that if it is a generator, let us say shunt generator, which will carry a current IF, which has a resistance RF, and this is the voltage, let us say V, this is EA. So neglect the resistance, so approximately VF will be equal to EA, right? Now how do you get EA in the first place? That is matter of our concern. We also know that VF is equal to RFIF. So there is also a voltage, or EA is equal to RFIF. So there is a voltage line across the armature. This is called VF line versus IF, and VF is equal to RFIF. Since RF is fixed, this is a linear. This is a linear curve. So you find that this will increase like this. So this is at any, it is supposing it is running at some speed omega m. Even at 0 IF, there is a voltage due to the residual. Let us say EA residue. There is a residual voltage that will just come across the terminals of the armature, that will drive a current IA. So IF, which will be EA residue, let us say I at start residue, this divided by RF. So certain small current will flow through this winding. When a small current will flow through this winding, that will produce a flux phi. Okay. So let us say this voltage will produce an IF, and let's say 1 or something, and then this will cause a flux phi, because this is proportional to phi, and induce a voltage again, and that voltage induced will be definitely higher than what was the EA residue. Okay, and then that voltage again there will be a increase in the field current, and that will again continue like this. So it will increase the voltage, and when there is an increased voltage, there is an increased current, there is an increased flux like this. Okay, it will go to the increased field current, and here there is an increased flux or increased voltage, and for this increased voltage again there will be like this. So it will go on continuing like this till you reach a stage at this point. So this is called, this will be the operating point. Whereas, so operating point is the intersection of the OCC with this resistance, field resistance line. Okay, see that operating point is the intersection of OCC with RF line. Okay, and what is interesting is if you increase the resistance, the RF line will move to the left. Okay, so increase RF, the line moves left, right. So you can increase, let us say, to some other value, let us say RF1. So you have, supposing this is the original value, let us say V naught or something, so you will have, it will come down to V1, right. And if you still increase RF, it will come to some other value, and then we come to a stage where we come to this line. So this is, we observe that that line is tangential to OCC, and if we increase the RF further, it will not intersect this line, and therefore there will be no induction of voltage. So we call this as a critical RF line, is the tangent to OCC at origin, and this is also called air gap line, because at this mostly the reluctance of the air gap is important. So this line, this is called critical RF line, or this is also called air gap line. Why we call it as air gap line? When it is low saturations, basically the flux is decided by the air gap reluctance. At high saturations, apart from air gap reluctance, there will be reluctance provided by the iron path of the poles and the armature. Therefore, under saturation reluctance is likely to be higher, so this will be saturated zone. So there will be, this is mostly here iron reluctance is, you can say mu of the iron is more or less equal to infinity here. Iron is highly permeable. Okay. So if we come to this very important situation, that at the beyond the air gap line, critical RF line, there is no voltage induced. Okay, and of course, if you change the speed, air gap line also changes, critical RF changes. So change of speed changes air gap line. So you can have a different RF line like this. Okay. So you will typically see that the with time the voltage induced or EA will rise like this and come to a steady value of EA at this point, okay, over a period of time. This is the process of self excitation. Okay. Now it is important, the field resistance is important, it is a critical field resistance is important, so that you choose the right value of resistance. Okay. So we come back to this curve, we have the field resistance, so it will touch different points. Now we see another characteristic called the load characteristics of a generator. Okay. Now I have drawn all the characteristics, but let us go one by one. Okay. Load characteristics is basically the whatever is the load voltage versus load current. You are connecting the load across the thing, so you find out how much will the voltage across the load as you increase the load. As you increase the load, how much will be the voltage. Now under no load condition, when there is no load, whatever the voltage will be equal to EA. But as you increase, this is the load, as you increase the load, the characteristic will change. Now they change depending upon the type of the excitation. Supposing it is separately excited, there will be a characteristics like this. This is separately excited. With a separate excitation, the flux will be constant, but there is a drop. Why there is a drop? The drop is due to the winding resistance as well as armature reaction on load, demagnetizing effect of armature reaction. So drop in voltage is due to IR drop, IARA drop, then armature reaction. Let us say AR. So the net armature, actually the net MMF will be, let us say IF dash will be whatever is the IF actual current minus the armature reaction. This is equivalent demagnetizing field current due to armature reaction. So as you load it, the current will be more, but flux gets reduced, it will oppose this one, and there is a more than IR drop. Okay. Now if it is a shunt excited as shown here, if it is shunt excited, there would be further drop because as the voltage drops, the flux also will be, there is a drop in flux. So it will follow a different curve may be like this. Shunt excited. In shunt excited, there will be an increased drop across the field winding, whereas in a separate excited, the current in the field winding will be constant. Okay. Now, if it is also series winding is also added, as we have seen, if series winding is added, then typically the voltage due to series flux is likely to be like this. This is series, because series current means more flux at the same speed, it will be the characteristics. And if the compound machine, if it is cumulatively compound, that means the shunt field will be in line with the series field. So as you load the machine, there will be additional magnetizing MMF coming into the picture. So there will be an increase in the voltage. So there may be this is cumulative compound. Cumulative compound, that will be better than the shunt because there is a added series MMF there. And on the contrary, if it is differential compound, it will still be worse, because as you load, the series MMF will be further reducing the net MMF. So the net MMF will reduce, so voltage will be reduced. So we now see with this physical explanations the whole characteristics, the series, shunt, separately excited, cumulative compound and differential compound. So which has been shown again here. So load characteristics VL versus IL, this is the shunt, separately excited, cumulative compound, differential compound and series. So because cumulative shunt aids series and differential, series oppose the shunt, and the net MMF will be NFIF plus or minus NSIS, plus if it is cumulative minus if it is differential. So these are the important characteristics of DC generator. Now let us look at the characteristics of DC motors. And these are the connections of a DC motor. We have included all the shunt and series windings here. This is the main flux, main field winding. This is the series winding. This is the supply voltage DC, and this is the armature connection. And as the current flows through from the source and the flux is flowing, then the torque is produced, that is a developed torque, which will oppose the load torque. So you are connecting a mechanical load to the DC machine, and this is the speed in which it is operating. So the energy flow will now be from the electrical source to the load like this, and we get the relation as shown here, that the torque developed will be constant into phi into Ia. So the more load that can be given only by drawing a more current, and also there is a voltage induced Ea will be equal to same constant Ka into the flux phi into the speed omega m. So you have a voltage opposing the terminal voltage, and the load which is opposing the developed load torque opposing the developed torque. Okay, and the interconnecting relations can be written simply like this, that Ea here will be equal to whatever is the voltage minus the drop, that is a drop in the series winding plus the internal armature resistance. Ea is equal to V minus IaRa drops, and the field current will be equal to whatever is the voltage divided by the resistance in the field circuit, V by Rf. Okay, so here it is V by Rf is the resistance in the field circuit, and the current flowing through will be equal to whatever is the current coming from the mains minus the current drawn by the field circuits. So these are the network or circuit relations of the DC motor. Okay. If these are the ones, what are its characteristics? So while the volt ampere characteristic of a generator is important, in the case of a motor, we are interested to know what will be the speed at different loads. As you increase the load, what will happen to the speed? Okay. Now this we have to derive for different machines and see how it looks like. Let us look at a shunt machine or the machine in which the flux is constant. Now the speed in a flux in a machine is equal to whatever is EA divided by K phi, okay, where K is the constant. But EA is equal to V minus IARA, and we can show that IA is TL by K phi, and that's our relation. Maybe just to get that relations from basics, it's a two-step derivation like this. In that case, flux is constant, so VT EA is equal to V minus IARA, and omega m is equal to EA by K phi is equal to V by K phi minus IARA by K phi. But we know that IA is equal to torque by K phi. Therefore, we get a simple relation that the speed is always equal to V by K phi minus IA, you substitute T by K phi, so T into RA by K phi square. So you can say this is almost like saying this is equal to C1 minus C2 into T. If these are all constants, that is, for when flux is constant, this will be the relation. Omega m will be some constant C1 minus another C1 minus C2T. Okay. So a shunt machine characteristics of speed versus torque can be written like this. So it will go a linear way at any flux phi. Now if you change the voltage, this may be V1, and if you change the voltage, it will go more or less linear like this. This will be V2, V3, V4. Okay. So and this one will be the no load speed. So that is omega m naught will be equal to C1, that is V by K phi. At no load, this is the speed, which is whatever V1 by K phi at this point. This will be V2 by K phi, like this. So you must know that this more or less a linear drop. And why is the drop? Drop is due to the resistance. Now of course there could also be effect of the armature reaction on load, that is also has an effect of modifying the flux and so on. Okay, so when this is the equation we have derived here, so we get the shunt characteristics. Okay, let us look at the series one. Series characteristics, similarly we can say the flux is proportional to the current. In a series machine, if it is only series, the flux is proportional to the current, and omega m is approximately proportional to some constant divided by square root of t. We can derive it like this. in a series machine, we know that the current IA is equal to current in the series field, which is proportional to the flux, and therefore torque is equal to K into flux into current. So that means torque is proportional to the current square, and current therefore IA is equal to, is proportional to square root of torque. Okay. Now as the torque increases, now what will happen to the speed? Omega m is equal to EA by K phi, and let us say it is approximately equal to applied voltage by K phi, or this is approximately equal to because some constant divided by IA, some constant divided by IA. IA is proportional to square root of t. So omega m is approximately equal to some constant divided by, I mean I will call this some other constant K1, square root of t. Of course, we are assuming that the armature resistance drop is sort of negligible. So this is a relation we get. So speed is inversely proportional to square root of torque. So the characteristic of series machine will therefore be like this. This is the speed versus torque. From this relation, when the torque is 0, speed is ideally infinity, and when speed is 0, when torque is ideally infinity. So it will have a sort of characteristics like this. Speed versus torque. Now this will of course vary with the voltage. That means we observe that omega m is 0 when t is infinity, and t is 0 when omega m is infinity. That means at starting it will have a very high starting torque, so which means high starting torque. That means whenever you require an application with a very high starting torque, you use DC series machines. So that's why you use them in electric traction. That's an important application because you are starting the train with load on it, okay, with all passengers on the compartments. Therefore, it must have a high starting torque. Similarly, cranes, lifts, hoists, it will start with load. So wherever you need that, then you use series machines. This is called a typical series characteristics, which require high starting torque. Okay. Then you should never start on no load. Another thing, important thing you must say, never start on no load. Never start a DC machine on no load, because if the load is less, then ideally the speed will go very high, infinity. If it very high speed means it will provide mechanical damages to all the components, brushes and so on. Therefore, DC series machine should never be started on no load. It start with load, and you get this. Now if this may be for V1, supposing you reduce the voltage, you can also have another characteristics V2, which is less than V1. So you have a series of characteristics which will be parallel like this with torque. Okay. Now next question is, if we have a combination of series and shunt, what will it look like? Okay. This is the next one is compound. Again on load there will be armature reaction effects. So let us say compound let us say cumulative compound. That is the series characteristics plus shunt characteristics. So here the net flux will be proportional to NFIF plus NSIS, and this of course is proportional to IA. So as you increase the load, if it were a series characteristics like this, if it was a shunt characteristic like this, that is the speed versus torque, you will notice as you increase the load, the current in the series field is going to increase, and that is going to increase the flux. When you increase the flux, we also know that the speed is equal to EA by K phi. So when there is an increase in flux for the same let us say applied voltage, there will be a decrease in speed. So cumulative compound will have a characteristics like this. So there is a, of course in addition there may be further reduction due to armature reaction, that is the issue. So cumulative compound will have a, compared to shunt or separately excited, there is a drop in speed, more drop in speed with torque. On the other hand, if it is differential compound, okay, so it is differential compound, then your flux will be proportional to the difference, that is NFIF minus NSIS. That means as you load the machine, there is a decrease in flux. So it will be the other way around, that there will be a the characteristics will go up, that is a differential compound, because as you load the machine, torque increases, armature current increases, series field current increases, and the flux will decrease, and as the flux decreases for the same EA, the speed would increase. So there will be an increase in speed like this in a differential compounded machine with load. So one can try to have compound machines according to the requirements, differential or cumulative, on the type of requirement. So you can more or less get a flat characteristics of speed. Speed may not change at all with load if you do a proper differential compounding, so that it continuously takes care of the drop in speed with torque. So these are the characteristics which have been summarized in this curve. So we have the series characteristics, shunt or separately excited. This is also the same as, if you separately excited also you can have a constant flux situation, shunt also constant flux because it is the same voltage. Then if you have a cumulative compound, there is a more drop in, there is a increased more drop in speed, and differential compound there is a almost better than the shunt. Okay. So we therefore, these are the important characteristics we must know, and wherever you need a constant speed you go for shunt or compound, where you need a variable speed or a high starting torque you go to series. So in like steel rolling mills and so on, you need a nearly constant speed, you get this curves, electric traction etc., you get these curves. Okay. So we have now been able to have a qualitative explanation of the typical characteristics of generators and motors. In generators, open circuit characteristics is important, as well as the load characteristics for different types. In motors, we would like to know how much will be the speed variation with torque, and these are the characteristics that we have. Of course, we can also have the what is the current versus torque. So you will notice at a shunt machine the torque is proportional to the current, so you can also have the current speed relations as well. I think we come to the end of this lecture today by recalling that by a qualitative explanation of the variation of flux with current, variation of torque and variation of voltage, that means by using the simple relation of torque generation, voltage generation and the field generation, we may get a qualitative picture of all these characteristics, which can also be measured in the laboratory by conducting appropriate tests.